corn and soybean producers eager to harvest will have to wait a bit longer. Monday's crop progress report showed that only 3% of Nebraska's corn crop is harvested. For soybeans, 55% of the crop was dropping leaves and no harvest numbers were reported. Now, if only the weather would cooperate. DTN senior ag meteorologist Bryce Anderson joined me to discuss how weather this harvest season is shaping up.
Overall, this has been, I think, the toughest growing season since 2009 because of the big delay that we saw, and the worst of the delays turned out to be in the eastern corn belt. So there's a little bit of a have and have not thing going on with Nebraska producers being able to, I think, have a better time of it overall in getting crops in the ground. Farther to the east, they are still struggling. I mean, as we're visiting right now, the corn denting rate in Illinois and Indiana and Ohio and Michigan is still more than 30 points behind average, behind normal. Soybean pod set is still, pushing 10, 15 percentage points behind normal, again, in that eastern corn belt area. But in general, we're looking at a growing season that has offered the toughest situation since, in my opinion, 2009. And there's a little bit of a comparison to 13, but I think that 09, looking at harvest, is a better comparison.
All right, let's talk about harvest. As far as the weather goes, how are things shaping up?
Well, for the end of September, the rest of the month, it's looking quite favorable because we are in line to stay away from an early freeze, and that's good news for everybody. Temperatures, the balance of September, are likely to be above normal, and precipitation, in our view, is going to be below normal over most of the state. Now, in the Panhandle, northern Nebraska, there's going to be a more active precip pattern, and so we're looking at near to above normal over the western and the northern parts of the state. Central and east and southeast on a below normal track. October is getting to show more of a variable pattern when it comes to temperatures, and I think more near normal during October, the farther we get into the fall season. And the precipitation signal is looking above normal for Nebraska, for the entire state. Now this is going to slow down harvest because I know that there are a lot of growers who are pretty much in line of wanting to get going in that first part of October. So October could be a bit of a problem with some disruptions, and then November turns back to a warmer and drier signal, so that would help out. And I do think that we're going to have some delays in October. I don't think that we are in line for that to be a problem on the order of what we saw a year ago, because a year ago it was just wet, 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 and we had a chronically delayed harvest.
Dropping down to South America for a minute, as we're ramping down, they're starting to ramp up. What do you see for planting when it comes to Brazil and Argentina?
Well, looking at the situation for getting going on planting, I think that Brazil is going to see a bit of a delay. Right now, the central part of Brazil, Mato Grosso, the biggest soybean producing state, is looking pretty much hot and dry. It doesn't look like their dry season is going to end in an earlier time frame than typical. So I don't think that they're going to be able to get going on soybean planting right away. Now, when they do get planted, our thought is that the weather pattern is going to be pretty much near average for Mato Grosso and for the largest soybean production states. But so much depends on the timing of the soybean planting, because 2 years ago we saw Brazil being dry, the soybean planting delayed until into November for the beginning. Harvest was late, and that led to a later start in planting their second crop corn, safrinha, which meant that a lot of that crop 2 years ago pollinated after the dry season returned, and their production dropped quite a bit. And we saw the benefit of that, so to speak, because there was a bigger world market for U.S. corn during the spring 2 years ago.
And Bryce, as we look at our winter weather forecast, still down the line a little bit forecasts aren't going to be completely accurate since it's still so far off, but what are you seeing in the long-range models?
Our look is that winter is going to be a fairly mild winter, actually. We are not looking for a real outbreak of big-time cold during the winter season. The Pacific Ocean, even at more of a northern latitude area, is looking warm, and that should lead to a milder outlook for us when it comes to those winter temperatures and kind of staying away from a real snowy pattern during the next winter season.
Bryce also tells us that ocean temperatures in the Gulf of Mexico and the Atlantic remain above average. He says he'll be watching for any tropical systems that could impact harvest and late season crop conditions.